Outer Darkness, Volume 1. Take 1. Action. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Carl, how you doing?
I'm great. This is the podcast. We're talking about Outer Darkness, Volume 1. A very, very wonderful book. Nice sci-fi horror book by
Absolutely.
John Layman, who created Chew, the writer of Chew, which is another good book. I have to actually finish that book. And the artist Afu Chan, who drew the Immortal Iron Fists, another book that I really enjoyed. I'll give the quick synopsis and then we'll jump right in. Outer Darkness, Volume 1. Sci-fi and horror collide in this new series from the co-creators of Chew. Mankind has colonized the galaxy, but during our interstellar travels, we discovered a terrifying secret out in the outer darkness of space. Join Captain Joshua Rigg and the crew of the starship Sharon as they encounter demonic possessions, hauntings, cosmic horror, and more. Dan, how was your time with Outer Darkness?
I had a lot of fun with this. A lot of fun with this. I purposely didn't go in reading the synopsis. You just told me the name and told me how to enjoy it. I was like, okay, cool. So I just downloaded and kept the movie. I thought it was just a straight up space opera. But I was pleasantly surprised when I realized, like, no, this is science fiction horror and taken to the nth degree. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed this book the first time I read it before we were going to record. And reading it again, I was like, oh yeah, this book really is really great. I love the mashup of sci-fi and horror. I love the kind of inventive characters and kind of character classes they added to this space horror show, like the mathematicians and the exorcists, and the fact that they're like literal space ghosts and demigods floating out in space that they're running into. Like, it's all very unique and fun. Like, it's a really fun, even though it's like really horrible, it does pose a lot of fun in the book.
Absolutely. I'd say this is not really much spoilers, but like the way they integrated their technology with the fact that there are gods and demigods rolling around that universe. Like, the moment I heard the God engine, I was like, what? It's like, what is this? And then the fun part of how they decided to, pretty much fuel the God engine was amazing and a great feat of storytelling right there. Not even storytelling, but just like painting that world. I was like, ooh, like that's messed up. And it made me want to turn the page.
Yeah. And I love the fact that they mention a hate engine and then kind of brush that to the side. I'm like, what was that? How do you feed a hate engine? And the fact that the God engine is powered literally by gods. It's not a spoiler or anything, but it's like they're old gods trapped in this engine that are subjugated by the captains of the ship, which is crazy to think that like an ancient deity is powering the ship with its kind of just itself, its energy. And then,
but it's pretty, sorry to cut across you, but it's also like fun seeing that parallel about like how is it parallel? You can correct me on this one, but how mankind and alien kind has evolved so much further beyond gods that they're now able to just harness their energy.
Is it a parallel? Is it a parallel? I don't think it's a parallel. It might be
parallel. Allegory?
No. Irony?
Let's go with irony.
The humans are let's go.
Gods. If it's like I know somebody out there screaming, listening to this right now is like, this is what it is. Just write it in your mean comments on the Super Black webpage and keep it moving, guys.
Or save your mean comments and just be nice. Not everybody.
But
knows
no,
things.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, I thought I agreed. I think that was an interesting. It tells a lot of little stories that you kind of think about later. Like that one, you're like, oh wow, like they've evolved so much that now they are able to harness a god's power for their own selfish reasons, and that's like something as mundane as powering a spaceship when you take a god and you like stuff it in a can and feed it criminals. And
like they also almost treat them like the gods and the demons are more pests than anything else. Because in this world, once again, it's not a spoiler. No, it's like nobody's safe, but at the same time, everybody's safe. If depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, we can get into some spoilers. Like,
all right, cool. Spoiler time.
The fact that you can resurrect folks, but with that, you can pretty much kill anybody you want. So in the book, they do introduce kind of a core set of characters on this ship named Sharon. Is it Karen or Karen or Sharon? I know that's the Hounds of Hell or something like that. Oh no, the ferryman, the boatman who brings people to the afterlife. I think it's Sharon.
Yes. So on a quick side note, if you go back to the first issue, the cover image, their spaceship looks like Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. And once I saw it, I was like, what? I can't get this out of my head now.
You couldn't unsee it?
Nope, couldn't unsee it.
Of all the horror in the book, the only thing that stuck in your mind was the fact that the ship looked like Stitch from Lilo and Stitch.
It took me out of it every once in a while. I was like, oh, okay, all right. But that's only on cover image. Everything else is cool. The cover image threw me for a loop.
I have to go back and look now. I don't recall ever thinking that. But now I want to see it.
Okay.
But yeah, everyone, the core cast of characters on this ship that is literally ferrying these people to their deaths, everyone can die. And many people do die. And people that you don't expect to die so quickly die. And then and then some people get brought back and others don't. So it's a weird, I like that mix, and it builds a richer world where anyone is up for grabs in this world, and like anybody can get iced at any time. And when the infantry commander, when she got killed closer to the end of volume 1, I was like, oh man, she didn't even get to do anything. And I was looking forward to watching her kind of be a badass, and she doesn't get to be a badass at all. Which was a shame, but also great because, no one's safe.
Say we can also talk about, say, with the world they've built, like all these characters, I don't know if just in this line of work and what they do, but like nobody can be trusted. Everybody's out to stab everyone in the back. And there's no qualms about, like, I'm going to kill this person. It's not that I'm going to replace this person. I'm going to kill this person. Mm-hmm. And there are a few times where I laughed at how sadistic these characters were, because I think one of my favorite issues was where it starts 150 years in the future.
Yeah.
And that's to go back and tell that story. I was like, and they didn't pull any punches. Like you saw that this demon on an ice planet killed off an entire race of just coloners. It's like, and the last child, you graphically saw this child just get killed. I was like, what? Like, how do you tell a story and go back and retell the story? And then you realize, like, oh no, it's because the reason this deity exists on this world is because the captain, Joshua Rigg,
left it there,
killed it, and just left it there. He could have taken it with him, but he's too selfish because, like, I don't want that demon on my ship anymore. And he's like, oh, and he even says, when this ghost comes back together 150 years from now, that's their problem. Mm-hmm. Like, he has no issue just sweeping things to the side.
Yeah, Joshua Rigg is a jaded captain. He's a very he's a self-proclaimed asshole. He's not very nice to even the people who are his friends. He's got his own agenda. Everyone has their own agenda, which I love. Like, everyone has a very deep, not deep, but at least another layer of motivation, whether it be they're possessed by a demon, or they want to be captain, or they have a secret love affair going on the ship. Whatever the case may be. It's like everyone has kind of a thing, at least in the main cast, and it gives them some backstory. And I love that you kind of dove into the future one, because I have my favorite sort of section of these books were when they told the story of Elox, the ship navigator, who used to be a god himself and was murdered by his sons, and then his soul was picked up by the Federation or whatever, and then they reconstituted a body for him, and then he's now just a navigator on this ship, and he acts like he doesn't remember that he used to be a god who was very cruel. And he says it to the audience, like, I was a very cruel god and it was fun. And he remembers everything, and he's waiting to get back to that point. I love that is like a character on this ship where he has almost supernatural ability to navigate or even feel fluctuations in the universe.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
And people are like, you don't remember who you are, but you have these like amazing senses. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. And the fact that his relationship with the captain is the captain doesn't remember his name ever, which is great. And he's just like, I hate everybody on this ship, but the captain, man, like I have to tell him my name every single time I talk to him, like every time.
But let's also talk about the fact that it's not only Alistair who hates this guy. It's like he's gotten the entire ship.
Oh, we haven't even mentioned Alistair. Alistair, the first mate.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
first officer.
Yes. Yeah. Elox. Yes.
Elox was the ship navigator. Alistair is the pointy-headed dude. Who was literally captain before captain. I was seeing red in my head. Yeah,
I was seeing red in my head the entire time. I was mixing up the names. But yes, you are right. It's like everybody from Elox to Alistair. I think everybody besides Agwe, his advisor, his second in command, like hates him. But at the same time, like Riggs made sure to give them a reason to hate him.
Oh yeah.
Like it's almost like he's purposely setting up that boundary so he doesn't care in the long run about these people at all.
Yeah. And it was a power play. Like his first, when he first showed up on the ship, and he basically steered them into danger, and to say, let me check the crew. Let me see how competent they are. 2, let me see how they react, my direct reports, how they react to my commands. Do they pull it off? Do they do whatever? And then who do I have to look out for? And it all works. He's like, I like the fact that lady punched me in the face because I deserved it. And that other guy threatened me and I deserved that. But the people I'm really worried about are the people who didn't even say anything to me. He's like, those are the people who have to be taken care of. And that just happens to be the ship administrator, Prakash, and then Alistair, which was, it sets up that dynamic where they're like, he's going to ruin the ship. We have to get rid of him. And then Joshua and tells Agwe, he's just like, they are going to be a problem. We have to get rid of them. Now we have conflict in space, rocketing on a ship to the outer darkness, which for people who don't know, the outer darkness is, I think, further than any place anyone's gone. And it's where the souls of the dead travel to.
Yes.
So when people die in this world, Elox made it a point to say, there is no heaven. We are currently in hell. And when you die, your soul is rocketed to the outer darkness to just float forever.
Yeah. Which is weird and very interesting all at the same time. Like, when Elox said that line, I didn't know what he really meant by hell. Like, was it his version of hell? Like, he thinks he's personally in hell, or he knows for sure that it's hell? So I'm curious to see like where that storyline does go, because I'm sure they're going to take you there at one point.
Yeah.
They did a really good job of introducing these characters, giving you a subplot point, and every issue feeding it in some way, shape, or form, like to build those characters up, so you get a better understanding of who these people are, right? And it's hard. It's like I'm sitting over here right now, like, what do I want to talk about next? Like, what can we talk about next? But at the same time, like, we don't have time for that. Like, everything. This book is so fun, but yet dense.
Super dense.
That we can literally sit here and break this up into different episodes or talk for like 6-7 hours straight about this.
All right, so let's why don't you? I'm gonna go first. Pick something that you really enjoyed about the volume 1, and then we'll discuss that. So I want to talk about the fact that they have mathematicians on deck to create like wards with like algebra and math equations that help fight off demons and ghosts and protect people. It's like what you would imagine a holy glyph or some sort of protective sigil, but they're doing it with math. And I thought that was really clever because math is a universal language. It's in everything. You can see math in everything, at least from human perspective. And math, you have to measure, you literally measure everything, or you have to, there's a finite amount of something in everything, right? Like we have an X amount of cells, so that's math, So the fact that they found a way to write an equation to do something for ghosts or to protect, from demons or to repel people. I thought that was super inventive and interesting, and taking something that, for me, I hated math my entire life, and make it cool. Like you make it this really funky thing. They're like, oh, you can use math to fight demons. That's really cool. And repurposing something that I didn't like into something I liked. I was like, oh, you guys win. You made me like math.
It's like, I think for me, it would be where I essentially got hooked on the book, and going back to the God engine. Like the moment it's like the God engine is like, what can this actually be? Like the soul, like the essence of it, or the actual soul, or the living embodiment. And the moment they introduced him and they had Rig sit there and literally shout him down,
yeah,
it's like I'm the master, I control you. Like once again, it goes back to that term that I don't remember, where they're showing how man has outgrown gods.
The role reversal,
and now there's only tools more than anything else.
Yeah, I love that part too. It was really interesting for him to be so flippant and aggressive at something that was, this ancient deity that murders and eats anything, and it's just powering a ship. That was really interesting.
And then it's like, putting a little bit on the Ghost engine, how they power it up is that they bring in criminals and they sacrifice the criminals to the god. And they went as far as even showing that they literally just dump the bodies into the tank and the god just rips them to shreds. I was like, oh, okay. It's like, that's what, it's like, when I saw that, it's like, okay, that's what book this is. Yeah. And I was their hook, line, and sinker from that point on.
All the deities in this book feel like they have this kind of slave and master mentality. There's lots of like, who is your master? Who do you serve? When it comes to all the deities, which I thought was interesting because they're these all-powerful beings and they're being like subjugated by the crew of this ship, which is weird. You'd think they'd have the power to fight back on that, but whatever.
But yeah, I mean, it comes down to that same thing. Like they're not strong enough to do that. It feels like a lot like American Gods, where people, like the whole thing is like the gods only exist because people like strongly believe in them.
Yeah.
And the moment that the belief stops, they just kind of disappear. So these people just seem to be believing them only to the point where it's like, you are useful to us. We can use you as an engine, or we can, chase down other souls that we want. Like all this different stuff. It's I mean, bravo, absolutely bravo, and the art on top of that as well. Like, very, very simple cartooning style, and so expressive.
Super expressive. Very colorful, very personable, very rich, like lots of rich colors, lots of very dynamic panels. And you can tell, I like the character design because you can tell everyone from each other. So you never really get lost about who is who, unless someone's like wearing a helmet or something.
Exactly.
But other than that, they're all very unique characters. It's almost like Dungeons and Dragons-esque, where they're very defined. Like, this is the barbarian woman, Baxter, the infantry commander. She's very big and she has this big ponytail and a crew cut, and she's very wide. But then there's like the chief exorcist, Reno, who's very short. He's like a dwarf with like elven haircut or something like that. And then there's like bug people, and then Elox has like that wide wing head, and then Alistair has the pointy hair. the pointy head, which is weird because at one point he puts a helmet on and it's a normal sized helmet. I was like, do those things bend?
It's cartilage. Let's go with cartilage.
It's like an ear. So it's just like,
yeah.
But there's so much of it. Wouldn't that hurt?
I don't know. It's like people have big noses and big ears. Who knows? I didn't think too much into it.
As a man with big ears, it hurts when I have to put on like anything around my ears. So I would think like if he had to bend that whole notch thing into a helmet, it would be very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't even notice it when I went through it, so I'm not thinking too hard about it now.
Okay.
I'll definitely find it on my second and third read through because this is definitely worth the read through. Like, but getting back to the art, Carl summed it best where like everybody has their own particular silhouette. So even if you just drew a character in black, just a black outline, you know exactly who you're dealing with in this book. So like bravo. I mean, there's not much I can say about that. It's like even for a horror comic, like a sci-fi horror comic, like this doesn't feel out of whack. Like it feels natural.
Just for reference for people, the name of the god inside of their ship's engine is Galu. It is a giant like bull demon with 4 horns. So 2 horns like a normal bull and then 2 horns underneath it pointing downward. And it's just a skull face and I think it has a mullet.
He said he was actually a Sumerian god, right? Like an old Sumerian god.
Did he? I don't know. I didn't get if that's in volume 2, which you've read ahead, maybe. But they didn't mention that in the beginning.
Okay. All right.
Or maybe they did and I missed it. I don't remember. But either way, he looks like he could be a Sumerian god. Or was Elox a Sumerian god? And he was out there chucking people and sacrificing virgins and stabbing ladies. He literally says he killed women and virgins.
Yes.
Ripped the hearts out of virgins.
I would say, I mean, he's an analog for Sumerian god, but at the same time, like what? He existed on an alien planet.
Yeah, he was an alien dude.
So unless you have the same god jumping from planet to planet to planet, maybe that can be a good excuse. But like a lot of these characters are analogs for other like demons that we already know. Yeah. So it's like I wouldn't be surprised if that's you borrow a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and then you got this thing right here. It's like no joke. As I was going through this, so, on the, do you have anything else to say about the art before we move on?
It's wonderful. We can move on. I love it.
Yes,
I love it all.
The writing. Can we talk about the writing?
Let's talk about the writing.
All right. So part of the reason I love this so much is that when each issue started, I kept saying to myself, like, all right, this is where Doctor Who usually pops up and tries to save the day. Mm-hmm. Like it had that type of feeling. Like as much as it was horror, it was still light. Like, it wasn't funny, but it was snappy enough. It was like, okay, all right. It's like this is fun, very quick read. If there's anything that I had to critique about, it would be the fact that, and we discussed this before, it would be the fact that we felt like we were popping in at the tail end of conversations a lot of times. It's like points that you think there'd be more conversation kind of to build up like the characters themselves. Like you just jump like, oh, it's like jump at the end of the conversation, pretty much like, okay, I'll see you on the bridge, Captain. Like I felt like I was missing something constantly.
Yeah, there was a moment in one of the scenes he pardons a woman from being fed to the God engine, and then she pops up on a different planet with this guy, Sato Shin, but I didn't really realize who was who, and then for some reason I thought Shin was the captain, and then they get killed, and I was like, did the captain just get killed? And then it was like they jumped back in time, and they were like, so and so is such and such is happening, and then I was like, wait a minute, I'm a little lost. I was like, so that wasn't the captain? It was a completely different person. Oh, so that's the lady who he pardoned. It took me a while to be like, oh, okay, I understand what's happening now, because they kind of shifted scenes to people who weren't in the last scene, but also weren't important enough that I should have known their names already. Like the lady was like a throwaway character, and the other dude was new. Then all of a sudden we're on a new planet, and I was just like, wait, where are we? What happened?
Yep.
But it didn't happen often, but it happened. That was the major one where I was like, wait a minute. And the other ones I started reading a little closer, where I was like, okay, this character is this person, this is this. Okay, I understand now where we are. So when they kind of jumped a little bit, I was like, okay, I'm still following.
Yep.
But I do love the writing. I love the
exactly like that's exactly what I was about to say. It's like as much as like that small critique, then it is a very very small critique. You know, from cover to cover, it was fun. It was energetic.
It wasn't cliched. That was my thing. Like they didn't write things that I could anticipate. So
there were times where each character was being cliche, but I think that was on purpose. Mm-hmm. Just kind of play out their tropes a little, because I think this lends to not it's like making conversations like longer or scenes longer. I think it's like they threw him at the end of a scene just so that character could say the most cliche thing for their character. Yeah. So you have to, so you can ditch all that extra story. It's like, this is who we are, and we keep moving forward. But in terms of telling a story from like a horror story in general, you know, no, like it wasn't cliched like that, and that's what kept me reading a lot of the time. It's like I want to know where this is going because I haven't seen this before.
Yeah, and I liked that usually when you write in a comic, if someone doesn't like something, they'll write, you know, specific phrases like "God damn that cat," you know, "God damn that cat" kind of thing, and they'll keep it really simple. But this one, it writes stuff like "Goddamn son of a bitch, asshole, shit, cat." Who would put the word shit after asshole in between asshole and cat? Yeah, I really dug the writing. I thought it helped push the book along. And for someone like Joshua Rigg, who is this kind of, he's like Han Solo if Han Solo hated everybody and didn't want to do it. It would have been easy to write him as such, but they kind of forego that through his actions, you know, like with, you know, steering them into danger to test them, and kind of just the things that he says, like, yeah, they have to be eliminated kind of thing. Like, I like the way that they wrote for Joshua, and it's hard to like him, which will bring us into, what did you think of the captain, the black space captain, Joshua Rigg?
I had to think about this for a while. Like when I put down the book about 3 days ago, I wasn't sure. Like I literally put it down, and that was the first question I asked myself. Like, and I came to the conclusion that I feel as if it's not the character was written to be a black character. I feel as if the character was made black so you would have a different perspective in terms of how you deal with his actions. And my example is when when he put his crew through what he put his crew through. You know, if this was, I feel as if this was a white character, like a white captain, he'd be seen more as arrogant and entitled. Where, for me, when I was reading Rigg, like I kept questioning his actual motive. Like I was like, oh, he's not that. He doesn't, like, yes, he seems arrogant, but is there a more deep down emotional reason he's doing this? Does that make sense?
Yeah, he's less. Here's on that same vein, and my take would be, if it were a white captain, like you said, it would just be kind of petulant, arrogant. But because it came from a black character, he's less trusting than most people.
Yes.
He's very jaded and he's very guarded. We're all
yes.
jaded. We're all scared.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like the question that was stated is, it wasn't a yes or a no answer. Technically, it was more nuanced, a lot more nuanced. Yeah. Like I don't even know if that was the writer and artist full intent when they made that character that way, but that's how I guess that's how both you and I perceived it.
And that's for us, right? That is how you a really well written story should come off. It's like you can take what you want from the story. It's not, transparent. Like he doesn't say all that, but we glean that from our life experiences and how we interpret the world. So that's what we see. Someone else might see something different. To someone else reading this book, it might just be arrogance. It might just be whatever. But to us, we see like this flawed, strong captain who is put in a situation that he kind of can't not be in, and to accomplish whatever goals he may have, he has to have a crew that's going to get him where he needs to be, and he can't trust that they're just going to fall in line, so he's going to test them, and those that don't fall in line, they gotta go. But I enjoyed it because of the nuance, like you said. Like, I like the fact that he's not like a good guy or necessarily a bad guy. He's more worried about the immediate safety of his crew and his ship than he is about, like you said, 100 years down the road when that demon reconstitutes itself. Yeah, he's definitely a layered character who's like, yeah, you can like him or not. I think for both of us, it's like, yeah, we fall in the middle. It's like it's a gray area. That kind of sums up our thoughts on Outer Darkness Volume 1. Dan, would you suggest anyone read this book?
Absolutely. Anybody that's a fan of science fiction, anybody that's a fan of Doctor Who, anybody who's a fan of horror in general, like this is a fun read. You know, I have to think of a better way to say that, like a catchy way to say that. But like, yeah, pick it up, read it.
Yeah,
you won't be disappointed.
And after you pick up Volume 1, Volume 2 is out. Dan did finish it, and we've been towing the line on him spoiling anything on Volume 2 this entire episode. I have it. I have not read it yet, but I will, because I do love that book. It just came out a couple months ago, I think. So it's pretty fresh. So read Volume 1 and then pick up Volume 2 and support those artists, especially now where, people, comics are a little harder to get.
Absolutely.
So Dan, where can people find you on social?
You can find me at _basement_monster on Instagram. You can find me on the Twitterverse under Daniel_D_monster. I don't even know. I never go there. I could care less about Twitter. So you can also find me at my online portfolio at www.thebasementmonster.com.
Awesome. You can find Superblack at superblack.co, where we have more podcasts, features, great stuff for you to read and ingest. Hit us up on Twitch, twitch.tv/superblackplays, where we play video games with characters of color. And of course, you can find us on social media at superblack.org on Instagram and Twitter. Thank you all for listening and for reading. Remember to support the arts. Draw something if you can. We love you.
And wash your damn hands.
And wash your hands. Full stop.